also very much looking forward to the upcoming talk with Miriam Wohlfarth. Many of you know Miriam. She founded Ratepay back in 2009. Ratepay is a buy now, pay later payment provider which has reached unicorn status. And she has also founded back in 2020 a new startup called Banxware, which is an embedded lending provider for B2B platforms and an SME lending enabler for banks and brokers. Banxware is also how I got to know you, Miriam, because we have been backing you as a venture capital fund since your first financing round in early 2021. But Miriam is not only a founder of fintech startups, she has also co-founded Payment and Banking, a finance blog, and she's also a member of various supervisory boards. Miriam, your career is very, very impressive already, but at the outset of your career, it wasn't at all clear that you would actually set out to become a fintech founder. That's one of the things I'd like to talk with you about, along with a host of other things. So it's only 20 minutes. Let's take a seat.
Thank you.
So Miriam, I read that at the very beginning of your career, you actually started out, I think, working in the travel industry after dropping out of university, and I think you were studying history and politics. So maybe let us know, how did it come that you started out became a fintech founder?
Yeah, I didn't grow up in an entrepreneur's, let's say, environment. I had normal parents, normal middle class, and actually, in the year 2000, I started working for a payments company, and that was on incident, but I don't go back any further. So 25 years ago, I met a person, his name is Pieter van der Dus, and if you Google him, Van der Dus, he's the CEO and founder of Adyen. And actually, he was also the CEO and founder of another company a long time ago. So they founded a company in the Netherlands, which was called Bibit Global Payment Services. So nobody knows it anymore, but it was one of the first payments companies in the world, maybe. It was probably number 2 in Europe, or number 1. I don't remember, actually. So I ended up coming into this company because actually I liked this person. He inspired me personally, and I decided to quit my job in the travel industry, which was, well, more or less successful, whatever. But I really was inspired by the, let's say, spirit of the kind of company that they had created. So coming, let's say, from the corporate Germany in the year of 2000, always wearing dark suits and blouses, and it was really, really different. And then I came up into this Dutch company, all the people end of the 20s, and it was just a completely different environment, something I didn't know, because also startup was not something that people knew what it was. So it was just an internet company that was doing payments, yeah. I met him, he was telling me that they do internet payments. At that time they started in the travel industry, especially for the airlines doing that. And he asked me, yeah, you can work with us, what do you think? Come to us and work with us, you can do Germany. I said, okay. It was really, actually I felt really honored that this guy asked me to take over Germany. I had not really this kind of experience, but I thought it is maybe the chance that I have, maybe to, let's say, to heal a bit my broken CV, yeah, say like this, quitting university, doing this and that, traveling the world, and then the first, let's say, the years after my Abitur, they were really, so in the Germany, for a German CV, it was horrible that I had, yeah, so no chances anywhere to make a career. And I thought maybe that is a good opportunity that I become the head of Germany and do, let's say, these things. And so I decided to do it. That's how I ended up in this industry, in this small startup at that time. And this is how I learned online payments. So also the good thing at that time, let's say in 2000, you have to imagine online payment was not like it was today. So people did not buy online. It was just that maybe probably Amazon was there, but they probably sold maybe, I don't know, 100 books a month or so. It was really small. And there was no e-commerce yet. So it was really some very few things, and the airlines, they were the ones in Germany actually that started the e-commerce business, because they were the ones launching low-cost ticketing and selling tickets from Cologne and from Frankfurt to various destinations for 19 euros. So it was really these days, and I thought, okay, this is big business coming up. So I went there, it became a big business, really indeed. So actually at that time, So Roland Prinz, who is also the CCO of Adyen today, and me, we are like doing the European sales, and we traveled all around Europe and signed up contracts with airlines. It was amazing. It was really like gold diggering a bit, because at that time there was not really companies doing that. There was a Wirecard in the market, but they went bankrupt in 2001. So I saw it all from the start. And transactions. We thought, okay, what is the pricing for a transaction? We didn't, to be honest. We just said, okay, let's price it with 50 cents. There was no mathematics behind it. It was just thinking, okay, what could be the price? How can we do this? It was really, in a way, it was really naive, and it was a bit like Wild West, but this is how internet payments started, and this is how I came in this industry, learned actually how a startup works. I learned actually from him that he was a really inspiring role model for me, that he was just a guy, finding a company, and he also had a career before this in sales. He was selling ads at Elsevier, publishing house in the Netherlands, so nothing to do with internet payments, nothing with banks. And he said to me, come on, let's do it. Okay, then I thought, okay, let's do it. And we did payments, and it was great. It was fantastic. This company was sold 2004 to Royal Bank of Scotland. So I suddenly had a business card saying Royal Bank of Scotland, sales manager. And the funny thing is, at that time, I worked actually from a home office already in Berlin, and it had my home address on the business card of this card from Royal Bank of Scotland. And everybody was laughing at this when I said it's actually my home address.
So basically, when you learned the ropes and learned to get to know the finance industry in that first job, but it really all came down to that one person extending you the trust of taking over the German market and encouraging you that you could do something completely different you hadn't done before. With your experience as a founder, what would be your advice and recommendation to young founders today just about to start their company?
So first of all, if you have an idea, just do it. We need much more mentality, especially in Europe and in Germany, and you really have a burning idea, just try and do it. The risk of failure, yes, there is, but even if you fail, it's not a big problem. I think I would always like to hire people that try to be an entrepreneur and that try to grow over themselves. So that's the one thing. The other thing, what I learned really, and this was the thing that I learned from him as my role model, he said to me, Miriam, you don't need to know everything, and don't pretend that you know. Know what you're good at, and really understand what you're bad at. And then really put people in a place, make a team, create a team that really fulfill the gaps that you don't have. And don't try also in front of investors, in front of customers, never pretend to be that you're good at. And, I always did that. I always said, I'm not good at financial KPIs. That's not really my strength. I'm not a coder. And nobody expected it from me when I said this. So I always said, okay, we have the people that can do it. And that was, I would say, that is a really important thing to really understand actually what makes it successful to build a company from the scratch and really, let's say, go all this way. Because if you do things you're not good at, you don't like it. You need to do the things that you like. So that's also, and in fintech, so we're here on finance conference, I would also recommend, it's always good to have a lawyer on your side. So my second fintech now, I founded actually together with a lawyer because at Ratepay we realized we made so many mistakes. Yeah.
That resonates really well with what we as an investor look for. We always look for complementary teams who are aware of their strengths and their weaknesses and who complement each other. Another thing we often look at is how does the market develop, and does it develop in favor of what the team is setting up to do? What's your view, past 25 years, how has the market in the finance industry developed?
So if we go back, let's say 2000, it was Wild West, no regulations at all. There was no regulation in payment. KYC, all this was not there. And what really changed the world was September 11th in 2001. So after this, actually, a couple of years later, it started with all the KYC, anti-money laundering laws, all these, let's say, things that came, PSD2, and also suddenly companies had to be regulated. Yeah? So this was maybe the first thing, and I would say at that time it was easier because it was new for many people, so to regulate something. But what has happened in the last year, so especially since, let's say, 2020, since we had the issue with Wirecard, I see that we at the moment go backwards again, so that's not really good. So I think we had a time where also the regulator was more willing to speak and really to exchange. That was maybe in the years when there was the rise of fintech, so around between maybe 2015 and 18. I thought actually it goes in the right direction. At the moment, I see it goes in a rather not so good direction.
You're mentioning fintechs. The term has not always been there. It has been coined at some point in time. How did you perceive the emergence of fintech throughout your career?
That was also quite funny because, you know, Ratepay was founded in 2009, so middle of financial crisis. There was also nobody talking about fintech, and nobody ever thought that this is a sexy thing that we do. People, you know, we didn't get investments. They sent us away. They said to us, "You're not from McKinsey. You're not from WHU. You have no track record. This can't be possible. This is never ever a success story." So also at the Arbeitsamt, I applied for a Gründerzuschuss. So it's actually some money that you get as a founder. It was also neglected, declined. So it was really difficult time. So it was not easy. And but then actually. When you go down further, suddenly, you know, I saw some companies popping up in the market, and then there was suddenly this word fintech. I said, what is it? Financials and technology. So financials and technology. So. And then I was reading payment and banking, so that was already there. So I was the founder of the company itself, a co-founder, but the founder of payment and banking was André Bajorat. He's a friend of mine that I knew since a long time. And he was always writing blogs and Twitter about this. And then he was always writing about fintech. And I once called him and said to him, "What is this fintech?" And he said, "Yeah, you know, it's all these banking things. Banking is now becoming actually, it's you break banking into certain, let's say, all kinds of unbundling. Let's say you have the savings, you have the accounts, you have all these things. This is all banking. And you know, banking is now unbundled, and in all these segments you have small companies going into and doing some things that usually belong to banking." I said, okay. Then I said to my colleague at Ratepay, "So you know what? We are a fintech." And that was quite funny because I didn't really think of us being a fintech at that time, because we then, you know, it was never about buzzwords. We wanted to do internet payments. With Ratepay, we wanted to build a German payment method, and we did that in a white label way. So it's also buy now, pay later. Now everybody knows this. At that time, nobody knew this term, and we just said we do Rechnungskauf and Ratenkauf with Ratepay. Everybody knew what this was, so this was easy to explain. And going back again with this fintech, so I said to him, "You know what?" And then actually there was also again some friends in this payment and banking area, so friends in my network, so Andre, and there was Arnulf Käse, who was at that time the CEO, the German managing director of PayPal. And you know, they said to me, "Miriam, you should also write something. Sometimes maybe you have to do something on Twitter." And I was like, okay, I don't know what to write there. I had really no idea. And then actually I met a journalist. They realized that, because I was then saying, okay, we do fintech too. And suddenly I was actually contacted by a journalist that said to me at that time from the Süddeutsche Zeitung, "Oh, you are a fintech founder and you are a female. This is really great, 3 Fs. So I said, okay, 3 Fs, okay. I never thought of this, but then I also thought, okay, maybe let's try to, let's say, maybe speak about this more, speak about this in public, because, you know, also, you know, what we did with payment, as payment was not a sexy thing, nobody wanted to talk about you. So it was not, we had no conferences. It was really difficult actually to share what you were doing as a business. Yeah. So we started using social media. We started using Twitter, writing about this, what we do. And this has, let's say, in the last years, this helped us a lot also to become more, let's say, better known and so on. Yeah?
So you've been a fintech founder, and building a business, starting a startup, it's often connected with like hyper growth, rapid scaling. So you get investors on board, investing lots of money, and then you scale your sales and marketing and grow exponentially. Is that really how it works in fintech?
probably, well, sometimes you might have some examples that work like this. And I think the whole system was maybe poisoned by the rocket internet system, what I sometimes think. So this really, really tough, really bullshit bingo, and we're the biggest, the greatest. And there were a lot of these, let's say, founders in the market that did this. So we had companies like Credit Tech and so on. So they were really like rising stars, and everybody was saying they're huge and great and great. And also we saw some of these, let's say, fintech stars. They had these super valuations, and they were all like unicorns and so on. But if you look at them today, not so many of them are still around. And I think maybe it's also what is happening now, maybe after all these years of crisis, that we maybe come now into a more healthier system, that things work out. And it's not that, I think that we can build big companies, but we have to be more honest on what is really, but it was also the investors, it was not only the founders. A lot of investors, they forced you to say, oh, this is the greatest on earth, we will win the world, we will do this, and it was expected that every founder needs to do hypergrowth, yeah? And this is actually, it's not really realistic, to be honest, yeah? That's just not doable. Yeah?
You mentioned one impediment, which you mentioned regulation that has significantly increased over the time. From a regulatory side, what do you think should be done in order to promote more innovation and the growth of early stage companies? What can we do as Europe? What would be your wishes to policymakers?
Oh, there are lots of them. I think if you look at we were just talking about this, let's say, if the life of a founder, it starts on how to get your ideas to, let's say, if you look at the certain players in the market, we need to educate people that they want to become founders, so it needs to start in the education. But then I think we also have to go look at the politics, that we have the right setup. So yesterday there was this Mr. Romano, yeah, he said actually that a lot of rules are done by bureaucrats and people that don't know the business. And I really think that this is so true, because also maybe one example in this journey, so more than 10 years ago when the German IBAN came actually into the market, this rule was made by 10 people in a group, let's say 10 countries, representatives. 9 of these countries were not using the Lastschriftverfahren. So there was like one country representing a country where there was a really strong Lastschriftverfahren in the market, and that made a new law coming, let's say, creating so much trouble for years. Now everybody got used to it, but this was an unnecessary thing, and so we have a lot of unnecessary burdens. And to bring it together, what I really think is we have to, let's say, have less bureaucracy. Yeah, we have to, let's say, do things easier. But this is, and also yesterday we talked about this. Let's say, we need a kind of, let's say, the European, our European union, that we find actually this
single market.
The single market structure. Sorry. Yeah. So it's like imagine like you have one single market with one single set of rules. Imagine that as a European startup, as a German startup. So in Germany we have 80 million people. In the US we have 340 million people. So when we try to build a big company, actually, we have the market with 80 million. It's not really big if you compare it to Asian markets or so. But if we had a European market with 440 million users in the European Union, we could build much bigger, better products, because we have better data, we have more users, and we create something. But today, I don't know if you're familiar with this, when you have a startup, so what we do embedded lending. If we want to, let's say, go into other countries, we have to create actually a new Banxware, more or less, for every country. So there is no one rule of KYC. There is no one rule of, let's say, how we identify certain people. Then we have data protection laws, they are different. We have lending laws, and it's all this like, there is not a rule set. And this, if we would have this, a single European market union that is coming together that would help us. And also in these times that we are today, I mean, with all the politics happening around us and the role of Europe, I think this has to be something that has to start now and not in 10 years. I mean, this idea, this grew in, that was 10 years ago, but this is what we really have to build, actually to make strong companies, to get strong companies in Europe.
I know our time is almost over. I want to get your view on two last things. Because this conference is about connecting people from the ecosystem, right? What is your view? How has the cooperation between banks and startups changed? And these days, the second point is, what makes a great fintech product these days? And we only have very limited time.
Oh, okay. So what has changed? I mean, I think in the early days when there was fintech, it was fintechs against banks, and it was really not something that we do together. I would say today it's more about collaboration, and we try to, let's say, build this. Because I think what has really changed at banking today is a technology-driven business. So, and there is like the bank infrastructure and the banking itself, which is technology. And therefore, I think to bring these things together, you need the collaboration, because most of the really tech things that are happening are coming from small startups and from fintechs. And when you combine these worlds of good infrastructure and smart technology, you can really get great things. And this is also what we do. For example, we have a cooperation with Hypovereinsbank. So UniCredit is one of our investors. We have a cooperation where we really have, let's say, we make it available that the HVB customers can get really fast access to an online loan immediately. And at the end, also, we can offer now, as let's say, being a small startup, usually doing small loans, we can also offer, in cooperation with the bank, a loan for a very, very high amount. That was also had not been possible before, and now it's really, let's say, take the best of two worlds, put it together, and make a great product out of this. And this is really, when you look at what makes companies successful, it's when they have great products that are really tailored to the needs of their customers. And this is what I think that banks and fintechs can do together really, really nicely. Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about how Miriam actually set out to become a founder. We learned what your experience with market development and the emergence of fintechs were, and how collaboration also has changed in a positive way. We've also heard that one of your wishes for the future is less bureaucracy, thinking in Europe more as a single market. I can totally second that as an investor, because if you just know the legal bills adding up to enter a new country, it's enormous. What are your final wishes for the future in the finance industry? Maybe as a closing remark.
Final wishes, that we start really working together in great partnerships. This is really important, because and don't see each other as, let's say, in German there is this word, Dienstleistungsmentalität. I don't really like this. I think it's not really being a Dienstleister. I think it's more a partnerships on eye level, that banks and fintechs can really create products that are really great. Yeah, and that are, and to say it in e-commerce, nobody wants to buy the white T-shirt anymore when there are hundreds of white T-shirts. You want the white T-shirt that really fits to the need that you want. So the right product at the right place in the right moment, that is really what it is all about. Yeah, and we should build that together.
Thank you, Miriam. I think we should leave the stage, otherwise we're not going to be invited next year.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was an amazing, come on here, photo. This was an amazing closing keynote. Thank you.